Hey, this is StarCraft 2 History, and this will be the final video. And this time I'm joined by CosmicSpiral, who I believe to be the biggest expert on the StarCraft 2 player life, because unlike every other person who has ever watched StarCraft 2, he is likely the only person to have specifically studied and watched and remembered all of the deleted VODs of Own 3D of life. And so he's the only one who actually has that fucking context of where the fuck life began, how it all started, and he's also specifically studied all of life's games, all of his things. And in the StarCraft 2 community, you might know him as the editor of TeamLiquid. He's also helped me edit articles before too, and he's also an expert in various other video games. If you notice, it's the Chibi Dormammu. That's because he started in Marvel or something. I'm not exactly sure. It doesn't really matter.
I'm not started.
But
I dabbled in it
yeah,
for a
dabbled in
long
Marvel.
time.
Dabbled in Marvel. Certainly
Mostly on
dabbled.
the theory side.
Yeah, dabbled in Halo as far as I know, and StarCraft 2 and a few other games. But in this one, we'll be talking specifically about StarCraft 2 and specifically about life. And we can go any direction you want. We can just start at his apex. We can start in his earliest days. Do you have a place you want to start at?
I'd really like to start way, way, way back, even before he was on Xenix, actually.
Okay.
'Cause I remember going through replays of his I think it was the very beginning of January 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, honestly, he didn't look very special as a player. If you were to tell me that by 2014 he would be one of the greatest players in StarCraft 2 history, it wouldn't really make any sense because he looked fairly ordinary
Mm-hmm.
in terms of strategy, in terms of mechanics. He was largely a Roach Ling player who would go for a two-base aggression in the Protoss matchup,
Mm-hmm.
and in CVT, he didn't quite develop that Ling Muta Bane style, which confounded people when he started doing it during the Broodlord and Fester era.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess we'll start there. So, you're the one who watched all the games. You got to tell me, because all I know is he was playing that ESV TV stuff, and he's like
Mm-hmm.
one of the guys strangely who played with like Tasia a bunch, back before Tasia became huge, among a bunch of other like pretty decent players. Jockji, I think Alive was in there. Sage was definitely in there. Symbol I think was in there. A bunch of guys like that.
Yeah, and that was where most of that second generation of SC2 pros really came up. Because I think you didn't mention there's Parting.
Yeah.
Wait, I had on my list here. There's, like you said, there's Jakchi, there was Hurricane. He went under a different name back then. You had Squirtle, Dream, there's Monster, and if you remember, the guy who had all excuse me, who was famous for spreading creep everywhere at a really fast pace. Before Scarlet, that was Seal.
Yeah, Seal. Okay, yeah. That was his invention. He actually only ever did it for one game, but everybody remembered that one game who saw it. Yes, it was against Bomber and GSTL, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so, as far as I know, basically here's what happens: he plays in there, and apparently he's not taking it very seriously at all. Life that was, and he doesn't actually take this game seriously up until he joins StarTale in 2012. Like, so basically 7 months later, after you saw a bunch of his like replays and VODs and stuff.
Oh wait, yeah, I made a mistake before. I meant I was looking at his replays in 2011.
Oh, 2011, right. So basically, this is like 2 years later. Because we're up
Mm-hmm.
2 years later. Because basically, as far as I know, life is just like chilling. Like he's
Yeah.
literally just like playing on the side, playing for fun. And it's weird because we know what a monster life is going to become one day. But obviously, this is a guy who didn't seem to take it very seriously at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So we go into StarTale, and basically the reason Zenek's life joins StarTale isn't of like any volition of his own. It's not because of any scouting. It's because ZX is about to close, and StarTale's like, oh, I can buy you all for like a bargain bin price. Okay, I buys them all for like a bargain bin price, and Zenex combines with Startail, as far as I remember.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Right, and then I think it was TSL4 that comes out first, or was it GSL? Or it might have been GSTL, because he does all kill Liquid, but nobody really took that one that seriously, because Liquid is kind of like a train wreck at that point. So it was harder to know, like, it was harder to know if he was actually good or not, or if it was like Liquid just being bad. So,
Wasn't
okay, go ahead.
well. Let me think. When what exactly was TSL at that point?
GSL was, let's check.
Well, TSL.
Because it was season 4 Coda, so when he was like when he showed up, but nobody really thought of anything much of him. So that was like September, and I guess it was TSL comes up first because TSL starts in the end of July.
Let's see. I'm just looking through the Algala.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes. Well, before then, he actually had a very good run in the Iron Squid qualifiers.
Okay, let me check those. I know what you're talking about because he actually made that tournament. He just didn't do very well in it. It was yeah, it was the one in Group C. It was 20. It was very beginning 2012. He got in a group with MMA, Jockji, Stefano, and Mana.
And he actually played pretty well against all of them.
Yeah.
Even though I think he ended up in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, I ended up right in the middle. Oh, he fought and survived Johnny Recco. That's pretty good, actually.
And we all know your opinion on him.
Yeah, the greatest patch Zerg there ever will be.
Yes.
And then the actual one where he did do well, he beat King Kong, Fry Chef from Australia. I don't know if I ever talked about him in this StarCraft 2 thing, but that's pretty funny. Horror, who was, I don't even know what he was, but he wasn't that good. Lelouch, most famous for talking about balance than he is about playing the game. Mm-hmm. Beat Bomber, pretty good actually. Dreamer TT was, he's like a B tier MVP Terran, nothing special. Beat Keen, which was pretty good at the time. I think Keen was actually a legit player at that point.
The way he beat Keen though was really notable because they weren't close games at all.
Okay.
He just swarmed over him.
Mm-hmm.
He was playing that really fast-paced, aggressive style, but everyone knows that he does now.
Mm-hmm.
But that was probably the first time to a large audience that he actually displayed it, and it was very successful.
Yeah, I'd like to point out a second for those who are watching, like, you got to understand, like, CosmicSpiral for a second, because he's like, yeah, that was a fucking large audience. It's like, we're talking about, like, Iron Squid qualifiers too. So that should give you an idea of what kind of person this CosmicSpiral guy is, like, really studying those niche sort of hipster players in streams. But yes, that was, in fact, like, as mainstream as it got for life at that point, because beyond that was like Code and ESV, and those were like hundreds of viewers max.
And it wasn't exactly burning streak through those either, because you'd always get stopped by players who were like Code Ash and Tasia.
Yeah,
I think he was like 1 in 12 against Tasia before he met him in his GSL run, his Royal Road run. He was just getting destroyed by him every game.
Yeah, well, that's Tasia for you, pretty much. Right? So he gets middle of the pack here, and then we go to, I guess we'll just go to TSL, right? And TSL, he beats Elfie, which was probably one of the weirdest series in existence. Like, I don't even know how to describe that one.
Oh, wait. Was that the one where they were base trading in the last game?
Yes.
Like, with a night... Was it a Nidus worm?
Yeah, it's like something super weird like that. Like, and all the games were super weird between Life and Elfie. It was some weird shit. I'll say that. It's like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like such a... It's like you would have to take like a psychedelic drug to understand how Life and Elfie came to that series, and even then, I don't think it would be enough. Like that's how weird that particular series was.
It was the anagram. That's what did it.
Yeah, it's the anagram. So they broke into the Akashic records or some shit, and then like broke open the secrets of the world, and that's what we got was Life in Elfie series. And then next one they have Life in Cos. Now Cos was another one of those overrated foreigner players at that time.
Really? Overrated?
Yeah, basically, I thought he was overrated just because like everybody was saying he was like the best foreigner or close to it, and I thought that was like way too much. Like, basically, I will give credit to Kaz though in the sense that he was playing in Broodlord and Festa era, so it's like maybe he was that good, but you were playing in the Broodlord and Festa era. The days of Johnny Recco were at hand, as Major found out in that same tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And so he beats Kaz, and then he plays against Curious. And do you remember this series? Because I don't really remember it, actually.
Kind of faintly.
Kind of faintly? Alright. We could just skip over it then.
I'm thinking he did something very odd in it.
I mean...
He played this weird upgrade style, I believe. I think it was maybe game 2.
Mm-hmm.
Where he went purely offensive upgrades. He did melee and ranged.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to go for this Roach Hydra timing.
But why would you go melee for Roach Hydra?
No, because he started out with Lings.
Oh, okay.
Hard tech switch.
Oh, it tech switched. Okay, that makes more sense. All right. So yeah, basically barely beats Curious there. Curious was a pretty good Zerg at that time. Plays against Keen again and smashes Keen again.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then he plays against Creator. Creator was one of the 3 strong Protosses at that time. And funnily enough, Creator blames this tournament victory for his failed career as a StarCraft 2 pro gamer.
Oh, really? Why?
He basically said he got complacent because he thought he was too good or something. Like, that's literally what he said. It's like, I blame TSL. It ruined my life. It's like, why? Because I got too complacent. It's like, oh, Jesus. So basically, he blames this tournament for making him lazy or whatever. Not really sure. But yeah, that's how it went for Creator. So good job, Life. You ruined Creator's life by losing somehow. Right?
Yeah. Is that why he was going double forge for all those years?
Yeah, he's like, it beat Life. It must work. It has to be the truth. Like, no, man, you gotta let it go. You got to let it go. But he never let go, did he? Never did. So let's talk about his railroad run, because this is when the majority, he starts entering the majority consciousness. And in the first group, he beats JYP, Supernova, and ST. And I don't remember, was the Nesty series good?
Not really.
I don't think so.
Because from what I recall, this is the point where Nessie was really starting to drop off.
Yeah.
But he still had that aura of invincibility, especially in ZVZ.
Yeah.
And that was what made Life really notable when he beat Nessie. Because beyond... Do you remember Arena of Legends, I believe it was called?
Yeah.
Where Nessie lost to Byungdong?
Yeah, Boom Boom.
Yeah.
I don't know how to spell that. It's basically, if you want to know, it's supposed to be a fart noise in Korean, so there you go.
Whatever.
Yeah, but basically,
Yeah, but beyond that, Fluke, everyone still thought he was invincible in CVZ.
Right.
And Life, at that point, he was becoming a really, really good CVZ player. That was what he was best known for in those small tournaments like KSL and ESV.
Right. All right. So Life makes it out of this group. Beats JYP. JYP I don't think is notable.
Nah, those games were ass.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Sounds about right. Then it goes to Group D and beats Team IM, Happy and Seed. And Happy was a mech player. I don't know if he was a mech player in TVZ because he wasn't around very long. Basically, as far as I know, like if you talk about like the higher level competition, he only made it to like GSL a few times. And
not a dedicated one.
Yeah. And then Seed was like
Marine Tank.
Yeah. Okay. So it was just Marine Tank.
Yeah, he's like the lesser version of MVP.
Yeah, without all the greatness. Yes.
Yeah, he had a mechanical ability, but he wasn't necessarily clever or had specialized builds
Or clutch
for
or
that
any of that good
or
stuff.
whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, just like a weaker clone, just exactly what
Mm.
you would expect from a clone, not nearly as good as the original. And then you have Seed, who was the GSL champ of season 3, and Seed was a funny one because basically he taught Symbol he should never ever play Infestor, no, Ultralisk. He should only play Infestor Broodlord. That's what I remember him for. Do you remember this series, it's Life versus Seed? Because it's his first like GSL champion killer.
I remember I was nervous about it because Life has never dominated CVP
Mm-hmm.
ever. That was his one real weakness at that point.
Yeah.
'Cause he was never confident. He was never confident going into the late game with the slow unit compositions that we're used to now.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd always try to end it in the mid game, or he'd do some really odd cheese. I think at the end of summer of that year, he was trying out these 2-base Nidus speedling all-ins. He was doing Bane drops. It was basically all this weird stuff that ensured he would never get to the late game and have to deal with moving Broodlords around.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. So basically, Life makes it out of Group D, and then he plays against Marine King in the round of 8. And Marine King was free. I don't know how you want to describe it. He was free.
Ish.
Like basically, Marine King is the guy where like thieves love him. Basically, he leaves the door wide open whenever he leaves, and then they come and ransack his home. And that's kind of how that series went out. From what I remember, it's like Marine King moved out, Life counterattacked, and then Marine King cried.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he made too many more artists.
yeah. Sounds exactly like Marine King. Not only was he a failure at the move mount, but he was also a failure at thinking of the unit composition, which was strange because he basically had to not use a standard thing in order to use this bad composition. But whatever, it's Marine King for you.
Mhm.
So next he plays against what would eventually be and what once was his greatest nemesis, Tasia. And this was a strange one because I thought Tasia should be favored at the time, but basically Life pulls out what we now know to be like one of the most important styles of play in the Zerg playbook, which is the aggressive mutilating baneling style. You want to go over what it was?
His particular take on it?
Yeah, Life's what made him different from the rest.
Well, I think it was two big things, but I can think of off the top of my head. The first one was he was really the pioneer of a different type of larva management
Mm-hmm.
in ZVT and in ZVZ as well.
Yeah.
Because Nesty first set the standard, and I think if you remember his interviews, he claimed that the most important thing for Zerg was macroing.
Yeah.
And with that philosophy, it was if you attacked Terran with any dedicated attack before building up a bank to remax, it was implied that would have to be an all-in.
Mm-hmm.
And some players tried to do that at the very beginning of Wings of Liberty, like Kirix, when you do those really big Bane busts. He never upgraded, and he never transitioned to layer. You just hope that he'd kill you before you ran out of steam.
Mm-hmm.
And when that stuff didn't work, the Zergs pretty much abandoned being able to use aggression. So they always thought if they did do it and didn't get a great trade out of it, they'd fall behind in workers.
Okay.
But Life devised... It's hard for me to say this because when people talked about him after he became famous, they would always harp upon how he had this instinctual style of play. You know, he would be able to feel out the game.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't teach that, so it was hard to learn from him.
Yeah.
But he had this very, honestly, methodical set of builds that he would use that would apply pressure to Terran in the early game. And it was specifically meant to exploit weaknesses in the builds that came up with Terran's response to Broodlord Infestor play.
Mm-hmm.
So he would have a very specific Speedling attack with 16 Lings against 3 CC into Hellion. it would hit right before the bunker would finish.
Yep.
Because they would build the wall, it would kill that, about maybe 6 to 8 SCVs, and then force the CC to lift.
Mm-hmm.
So Terran would have to wait until 4 Hellions came out so they could chase them away. By then, he'd drawn up, he'd secure his third, if he'd build for the next assault. He had this specific Bane timing when Terran would only have 4 to 5 tanks. He'd bust through that on certain maps like Whirlwind.
Yeah.
That was the map that he played against Tasia, right?
I think so.
Game 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he masked up units then to hit Terran when he was weak before the siege tank count came too high.
Mm-hmm.
Then he would cascade off of that to apply more pressure to the third while he expanded. And then, of course, he had these... Well, he had too many of them to count, but I'll just talk about one. He had a very specific muta, 2-base muta timing that would hit right as Terran finished their start port. And this one was specifically to punish the greed of Terrans.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of Zergs at the time were playing very passive and trying to rush Broodlord and Fester.
Yeah.
So, in response, Terrans became very greedy. They went 3CC. I'm not sure if they actually did go for Tech Lab on barracks.
Some of them did. Like Tasia famously did like weird 4 command center opening into like double medevac and stim.
Yeah.
And like off of like 0 Marines or something. It's like really weird. But yeah, it happened back then. I remember.
Yeah, they would rush Banshee as fast as possible. Mm-hmm. They'd get maybe just 1 or 2 Marines, and then they'd largely skip Hellions as well.
Mm-hmm.
So when he did that, it was timed out to hit before they could get out of Thor.
Yeah.
Because in addition, since they were rushing it, they also delayed NG Bay.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
And he won a lot of games just off of that. No? Even if they didn't GG, he crippled the Terran so severely that him delaying his third base didn't matter.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Yeah. Because
yes.
a bunch of basically, if you look at Life's career, a bunch of his like games instantly end or feel like they instantly end. So a lot of them don't even feel like games. They're like, oh, Life won, on to the next. Yeah.
Yeah, but the really big genius was none of these attacks were really all in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like the only way they failed was if he did 0 damage. But even if he traded, he already planned out the transitions, so he could continue to fight them head to head as the game progressed.
Yeah.
Now something Zergs didn't really learn or didn't want to learn at the time, since Broodlord and Fester was popular and honestly was easy to win against Terran at that time. So why would you ever do like what Leenock did, where he had that crazy ass Nidus Worm attack
into like double spire or something?
Yeah, something like that. Like you wouldn't want to take those type of risks if you would play like Symbol.
Yeah, makes complete sense. But speaking of Ruler and Fester, basically Life does sell his soul here. He plays MVP in the finals and decides
he had to.
Yes, clearly he had to. Let's be real. Like that build MVP did basically made sure that you had to play Ruler and Fester. But you had to sell your soul if you wanted to beat MVP. Even crippled with 5 slip discs, that was how good he was. Right? And so, as far as
honestly, that build was really good too.
Which
when I was watching finals, the one MVP did.
Yeah, the one MVP does.
I was really surprised how it forced Life to play kind of uncomfortable. Because I think there were 2 games where MVP straight up won just when the Blue Flame upgrade finished.
Yeah.
And he just roasted drones and it was over. So Life always had to go Roach. He had to do these kind of finicky counterattacks with Roach, which were much worse than Lings naturally. He also was trying to get out Broodlords exactly when the big push came, when MVP hit 190, 195 supply.
Yeah. Yeah, basically, I remember this series being like very on the edge for both players. It's like because basically MVP does this thing where MVP could have made this build obviously, but MVP is also the only player who could like hit a timing through like the hole of the size of a needle, and apparently like Life was also hitting that timing to stop MVP. So that's kind of what happens in this series, as far as I remember. Is like it was like very very much on the edge the entire time, and this is the only series I remember where Life looked frustrated. Like throughout his entire career, like he's lost tournaments, he's lost series, but this is the only time I've ever seen him like pull out his hair, like look really like annoyed and frustrated with the guy on the other side of the server.
Oh, that's just a mask he puts on.
Yeah.
He was upset like that in every finals.
He was like that in every finals. Okay.
Yeah, remember most of his finals were really down to the wire.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Yeah, especially the later ones, but we'll get there. So yeah, basically, Life did sell his soul, but it's because it was MVP. It's hard to. Basically, it would have been impossible to beat MVP without Broodlord Infestor, I think, at that point.
Yeah. So I think his store timings with that build were made so that you could never build up mutas.
Mm-hmm. And like the rest of the build naturally counters roaches, so it's very hard to. Basically, there was no other answer for a Zerg player.
Yeah, and he had some good maps to do it on too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Basically, he the same reason Broodlord Infestor was good on those maps is the same reason MVP's mech was good on those maps.
Basically. Yeah, because with those maps you couldn't really counterattack the third. And his army moved that.
Yeah. Right. So basically, Life walks this railroad. He beats Marine King, Tasia, MVP, and then he goes to over the ocean, goes to the Nation of Freedom, America, and plays in MLG Dallas. And this is the tournament where everyone's like, oh, for certain, Life is the greatest player at this very moment, the best player in the world, because he basically stomps his way through this tournament. Like he beats Major, beats Violet, he beats Tasia twice, and then he goes into the upper bracket, and then beats Flash, beats Heart, and then plays Leenock in like a super close series.
Mm-hmm.
So is there any particular like series you wanted to go over for this one, or just like was there anything that stood out for you watching this Life run?
The way he adjusted against Flash was very, very impressive. You didn't mention he actually lost to Flash.
Yeah, he did lose to Flash in the winners round.
In the first round in the winners bracket.
And then extended series.
And this was the tournament, and this is one of the tournaments where people thought that Flash would ascend to become the best player in SC2.
Mm-hmm.
It was that period when Kesper was finally moving into the scene. And it was all just wondering about would the old Broodlord pros surpass the ones that are playing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And Flash was one of those players that, well, he instantly took to the game. He didn't look like his old Broodlord self, but he was easily top 10.
Yeah.
Starting from this period.
Yeah.
And if I recall correctly, he had a really good run, even without taking the games with Life into account. But he looked very dominant. No?
Yeah, basically, the only guy who like almost beat him was Naniwa. And Naniwa was pretty good at the time. Naniwa was like one of the best foreigner, actually probably the best foreigner at that moment. It depends on how much credit you want to give Stefano for the Broodlord Infestor stuff. But he
was good without the Broodlord Infestor stuff.
He was, but like that's basically like, like it's tough to rate Stefano for me because like his entire prime is almost all within the Broodlord Infestor era.
Mm-hmm. And also, he had that one build in ZVP that was almost uncounterable.
Yeah, so it's like, it's like there are a lot of great things about Stefano, but it's hard. It's like he's a hard player to measure in terms of the overall like effect of his play, because of all of it's so focused on this specific era where like, and he created this era in a sense of like the Zerg strength.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always hard to measure him as a player, but yeah, he's definitely like it's definitely him or Naniwa at this point, and Flash beats Naniwa in like a very epic sort of extended series, and then he beats Life, and then Life comes back. So back to that series. How does Life adjust to Flash? Like what was Flash doing, and how did Life beat it?
Actually, on second thought, let me see. Did Life play Flash in another MLG later on?
Yeah,
in 2013.
Yeah, he does in Winter Championship.
Yeah, because I think in the Winter Championship one, he has a modified version of that bailing bus, of those bailing busts I was talking about before.
Mm-hmm.
So he has a lot more bailings, and they were meant to hit earlier.
Yeah.
Like instead of the 4 to 5 sea shank line, he's hitting it when it was 1 to 2. And I was thinking of that one.
Okay, you're thinking of that one because this one's different, I guess.
Yeah,
Because this one's still in the Brulor Infestor era. That one is right at the beginning of the heart of the swarm. That's like a
yeah.
completely different set of circumstances. But all right,
The
yeah.
one I remember for this tournament is he actually has really, really great meter play,
Mm-hmm.
and he kind of tears apart Flash with that.
Yeah.
But in terms of the builds and maybe playstyle changes, I'm not too sure. It's nothing's really coming to mind at the moment.
No, I don't think so. But there's a game I'll ask you about. It's Life versus Leenock. It's the one on I forget what the map is called. Let me check. I think it's Cloud Kingdom. You remember that one? Where they basically like split the map and they're constantly attacking and counterattacking each other.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So this is like a view into what made life good as I don't know we would call it like a tactician maybe as specifically in Zerg vs Zerg because he was a player like if you put him into this position he could find openings that not like only like the best Zergs could have made and that's also why like he and Ledoc had a bunch of really good ZVZ series in my opinion, because like they basically attacked all over the map, and they understood what they were gaining from that, and then using that and then transitioning into something else, whether that was a different attack or more economy or the next tech upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Good enough.
Oh, you expect me to say something?
Actually, I have no clue if you. I was wondering if you had anything else to say about that, but yeah, we can move on because I think that.
The only thing I would say is that was the second thing I was going to mention about what he pioneered for the game. It was like, did you read that recent Flash interview?
About the 111.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then he goes and elaborates on his rationale behind doing that and the way he thinks about the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about it?
Not because the way Life plays aggressive, he was adhering to that principle that Flash was talking about.
Yeah.
Where attacking isn't just in order to get an advantage in build order and whatnot. You have to put psychological pressure on the opponent. By doing that in sporadic fashion, you undermine their confidence. You make them lose their focus.
You force them to think, basically.
Yeah, and that was something he really refined in ZVZ.
Mm-hmm.
But then it spread over into his ZVT.
Mm-hmm. And arguably a ZVP.
And
it's kind of iffy. ZVP is different matchup.
The iffy thing is in ZVP, there weren't really any. You couldn't really do those early timing builds.
No, not in
ZVP.
Not later on. Yeah.
Not even.
I think you could do it. You could do it in Brulor Infestor era.
Yeah, but the thing is, he had to basically all in for those.
That's
he
true.
He had some, but
yeah, that's true. Basically, they were all ins, but there were so many of them. They were so good. I used a bunch of them. Yes. Yeah, actually, you know that interview? He basically says like, he talks about that. He says like nobody ever thought like him, Flash, that is. But that's actually not true. He actually contradicts himself because there's another interview he does, on his stream, that I had somebody else translate, and he basically says among all the StarCraft 2 players he had ever met, and among all the players arguably, the only person who ever thought like him was Life. So to build on your point, like yeah, basically they both thought about
in what fashion?
He doesn't explain it. Basically, he says the only player who ever reminded him of himself was Life, in terms of like strategic and tactical thought. But he doesn't explain or elucidate on that point. So I thought you'd find that interesting, because when you talk about the aggressive posturing of Life, a lot of it is because he gets so much more information, so much more psychological pressure. So it's always the case where like it feels like Life is more clutch than the other guy most of the time, just because he's putting so much pressure on the other guy. But It's very similar to what Flash was talking about in that particular interview.
No, that actually makes kind of weird. That makes sense in a weird way.
Yeah, like so
'Cause
basically.
in his wait, no, I have to elaborate on this a little bit.
Okay.
Because in that interview, in the first interview, Flash talks about the way he creates builds,
Mm-hmm.
and he emphasizes that he doesn't want to play safe with these builds.
Mm-hmm.
What he's doing is he's putting he wants to commit the minimum amount he has to in order to defend,
Yeah.
in order so he can get the most advantage. And the first thing that comes to mind immediately when I'm thinking about that is life. It's life's two-base meta play in CVZ.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was arguably the first person who found out a way to do it unlike Nest T did,
Mm-hmm.
where he did it as a straight counter. He'd make like 15 to 20 meters and control the map.
Yeah.
But Life only made 6 to 8,
Mm-hmm.
and he designed the build in such a way that it could actually beat the traditional counters to it at that time, which were you would scout it, then you would counterattack with a big roach
Yeah.
by committing your level to roaches, or you would go Night Swarm.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but Life planned out the transition so that he could barely hold on against the roach attack while still having superior drone count.
Mm-hmm.
And he also figured out the Overlord placement so that he could snipe the Night Swarms that would inevitably come when people realized he was going meta and they were going for, say, Hydra,
Yeah.
or just upgrading roaches.
Mm-hmm.
In all those games, he didn't win them in a convincing manner. He held on barely.
Yeah. That's very similar. Yeah, like I said, very similar to the way Flash was thinking about it. And it's not surprising to me, at least, that Life was the only guy who thought on a similar wavelength to Flash, at least in terms of strategy. So, makes sense. Makes sense. And then we go to his next big tournament, because I'm just going to hit all the highlights, basically.
All right, go ahead.
GSL Blizz Cup. This is another victory for for Life, and he does pretty well here. Basically, he's in Group B with Violet, pretty strong Zerg at the time, arguably top 5. It's kind of iffy with him, but he's certainly very
Violet
good.
was weird. Violet was kind of a weird player.
Yeah, Violet's a very
match.
very weird player, especially in the Brutal Infestor era. GSL champion, but I think he was on the downfall by that point. Rain was probably the best or second best Protoss by the end of 2012. And then, of course, the Lord of Evil, Sniper. The guy
The
who...
patron saint.
Yeah, my patron saint, the guy who killed Christmas for me, basically destroyed Vegas on his way out to Heroes of the Swarm and helped kill a bunch of different hype trains apparently in Heroes of the Storm, so shout out to Sniper. So basically, Life gets second here, beats everybody except, I imagine,
Violet.
Yeah, it had to be Violet, wouldn't it? Violet's
he
definitely
was
a weird
good.
player. He's a
He was
good player.
in
Yeah.
CVZ
Yeah.
at that period.
Mm-hmm. But he makes it out. Then he beats Stoneway Leenock. Both actually very good Zerg versus Zerg players, both of them. And then he plays against Parting in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then Parting was the man of the Soul Train, the man who bet it all, and wasn't enough to beat Life. All right?
Yeah, that didn't work. Life was one of the few players that really knew how to play against the Soul Train.
Yep, like one of 3 basically. There's him, there's Sniper, there's Curious. And then Curious technically didn't even play against the Soul Train. He just found out, if he 10 pull, Party can't use his build. So that's not really... I'm not even sure if that counts, but certainly that's how Curious dealt with it.
You win how you win, right?
Yeah. Plenty of players could have learned from Curious. Plenty of players could have learned from that little trick.
Too bad they'll never be able to learn anything more from him.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Curious. But yeah, basically he wins this one, so he's already 3 tournament victories in 2012. So what do you think of his? Actually, there's one more tournament we'll go over, I guess, because it falls along the same lines. He goes to Iron Squid 2. And Iron Squid 2 is another really good tournament for Life, as far as I remember. Basically, he beats... It's similar to his TSL run. Beats Seed, beats Creator. or maybe it's just I think it's similar because Creator's there. He beats him down. So yeah, beats Seed, beats Creator, beats Leenock again. Another 3-2. Basically, Leenock is always very close, but he can't beat Life. Beats Gosu User. Goser? I don't know how to say his name.
I think it's Gosu.
Oh, Gosu User? Okay. And then he beats Marine King again. Shoutouts to Marine King for being free. And then he plays against Dongwegu, and this is another very close finals. Dongwegu goes up 3-0, and then Life reverse sweeps. And this is one of the forgotten finals. And I'm not sure if it's because it was ZVZ or Brutal Infestor, or because people are specifically forgetting about Life. But in any case, this is one of the more this is like the forgotten finals, or the first like reverse sweep in finals in StarCraft 2 history, as far as I know. So, what did you make of this run?
Well, this one was really, really tenuous. Because those 3-2 to Leenock and Gosu User weren't supposed to happen per se.
Yeah.
Like, besides the Marine King series, Life looked very, very shaky. I mean, it was kind of to be expected, though. By then, everyone was studying him. Everyone was stealing ideas and patterns, whatnot. So, for me, I thought he was going to lose before he even met Dongwegu.
Yeah. At least until you saw Marine King, you're like, oh yes, Marine King. Because Marine King is free, or I think he was free.
No, he always gets one game.
Yeah, he gets one game. It's like beyond that, he was free. Even old man Nesty beat him.
And in the series against Dongwegu, I think overall DOG actually had the better builds. But Life persevered through with, his legendary micro.
Yeah.
I think it was his fourth game where he just outplays DOG.
Yeah.
In order to win in the Speedling versus Speedling rush.
Yeah. Basically, Dongwegu could have won 4-0, but instead Life wins that fourth game and then takes it back.
Yeah, and in the last game, DOG goes for a Bane bust. Very early. It was a 10-pool Bane all in, right?
Yeah, I think it was something similar to that. It was like super all in basically.
Yeah, and Life didn't have speed. Either was it. Still micros his ass off.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically Life wins another one, wins 5 tournaments, basically. Not in a row, but he wins 5 huge tournaments, and that sort of ends his period in Wings of Liberty. So what do you think of Life within that period, just the first peak?
Well, being slightly cynical, I think he was lucky that Protoss wasn't that successful during that time. If that was happening maybe 5 months earlier, when Crater and Parting and Rain were all doing very well, I think he makes maybe 3 tournaments. He wins maybe 3 tournaments, tops.
Yeah.
Because, like I said before, he never becomes a master of ZVP ever in his career.
Yeah.
He always specializes in ZVZ.
And ZVT.
His ZVT form is always great, but the end of 2012 was really special.
Yeah.
He has something like 85% win rate.
Mm-hmm.
And once all the new introductions like Medevac Boost and Widow Mines come in, he never reaches that peak again. Because those are naturally soft counters to his style of play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, he's still very good. But
yeah, so he's still amazing.
He's still amazing. Still like one of the best ever still. But yeah, he doesn't reach the same peak. I'll agree with that. Basically,
who does, really?
Yeah.
Like maybe Flash. Maybe Flash, like the only person who has 2 monster peaks in his career.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically we go down to like Heart of the Swarm. And like you said, basically the new game, completely new units, and they've changed the game. And to give context, basically for whatever reason, Zerg was thinking, man, we are complete shit at this game. There's no way we can win. And then Life shows up to MLG Winter. And Life smashes everybody. Of course, he gets a free run against Minigun. But after that, all good players. He plays Pult, beats him 3-2, plays Last, beats him 3-2, plays MC, beats him 3-0, and then plays Flash in the finals and beats him 4-2. And this is the one you want to talk about earlier, which is like the Life versus Flash ones. But was there anything you want to talk about Life specifically? Because everybody thought like it was over for Zerg at this point before this tournament.
Now, do you remember all the new units that were introduced?
All the units.
Well, all the Terran ones. Because I don't remember.
There was it was the Medevac, it was the Hellbat, it was the Widow Mines.
Yeah, because about 2 months after this, Innovation starts showing everyone how really strong Marine Medevac Widow Mine Marauder really is.
Yeah.
And that's when Life starts to struggle against him in particular. But here, he still plays fast enough. He still has enough sufficient micro that he can play around the Widow Mines, which were... I don't know, I'm starting to really doubt my memory of this. Were Widow Mines and Medevacs really the big bane for Zerg?
They were, but not at this point. I think there was mostly Hellbats. It's called the Hellbat era. But but I think they were used, just not as much until after this tournament. Basically, when we go into like GSL, that's when they were used more often. And Innovation was a master of both of them, so he was completely fine. He's like, oh, Hellbats, oh, it's too bad. He has to use mines. Oh, I'm really sick with mines. That's kind of what happened with Innovation anyway.
No, Life handled it really, really well.
Yeah. Basically, Life just destroys everybody from what I remember.
So I don't have any more to contribute.
Yeah, that's good enough. That's good enough. We will go to his group of death. Even though this listen, even though this is basically the round of 16 elimination, this is like a very hard round of 16 elimination because as far as everybody else is concerned, he has in that group he has Innovation, Parting, himself, and Flash, and they are the top 4 out of the top 5 players. The only other guy that should have been in there could have been Sulky, and that's it.
And this was deliberately made.
Yes,
right?
Deliberately made because everybody has huge egos. Except for Flash. Flash is like, oh, fuck you guys, why'd you bring me here? But everybody else is like, yeah, I'm gonna pick. Party's like, yeah, fuck it, I'm gonna pick Life. Flash is like, fuck you, I'm gonna pick Innovation. Innovation's like, well, I mean, we may as well get Flash, fuck it. And then that's what happened. So, yeah, basically Life plays Parting, and he plays Innovation, and then he plays Parting again.
Yeah, it looked really good at the beginning. That win against Parting was very comfortable.
Yeah. And plays against Innovation wasn't nearly as good. I was expecting more from him, but I feel like he fell off by that point, and he wasn't adjusted to the Widow Mines.
Well, I don't think he was adjusted to the way Innovation.
Yeah, Innovation used it
because he perfected that to a science.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah, basically what happens is at this point in time, Innovation's peak was arguably I think it was straight up his best peak at that moment, and the only guy who could beat him in that particular style would show up later on was Dongwoo, and that was it. So at least the way you would play it, Curious could outthink him. He did it once online. Sulky could cheese him, but it couldn't beat him straight up macro games that often, maybe once in a while, but very rarely. So yeah, it was just a tough matchup for Life, basically, for Innovation.
Yeah. Especially because he couldn't do counterattacking and such. That's not the way that Innovation's build worked. He built up to a critical mass, and then he just slowly leans on you. And that was one of the big problems with Zerg, since the Terran was always right outside your front door. You couldn't use meters to make plays on the map. You couldn't maneuver around between Bane. You always had to stay near your bases and just absorb the waves of units.
So it doesn't. So basically, Life can't play his style, but Innovation can play his. So it's just a bad matchup. Just the way it worked out. That's also why Dongwoo, if he was in his prime, could have beaten Innovation, and we did see that. But by that point, Dongwoo was already past it. So you only got to see a return to form once from Dongwoo, basically, because that's the kind of style Dongwoo would love to play.
And also, don't forget, this was the beginning. This was the end of spring.
Yeah,
that's always been one noticeable pattern with Life.
It's he stops trying. Yes.
Yeah, he's just lazy for some reason.
He has no rigor. He has no
Yeah, his peaks are always like in the fall, around the end of winter. But in summer, he just gets complacent
Yeah.
and doesn't really. I don't know if he doesn't try or he slacks off the practice.
Typical school kid. Oh, it's summer break. Time to take a vacation, and then does nothing for months.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, he was that young though. He was basically a school kid at that point. Was for most of his career. So.
The most successful school kid in StarCraft 2.
Yeah, at least unless we count Maru now. Maru's pretty rich.
Is he really a kid? Is he really a kid now?
No, I don't think he is. I think he's an old bitter man.
Mm-hmm.
So we go to we'll skip his laziness because there's not that much interested. I'm not that interested in his laziness.
The loss to Shao is not interesting. Didn't spawn memes.
It was funny. Oh, I'll say this for Life. Shout out to Life because basically what happened was, as far as this is a true story. I think like Heyoka basically told me. Heyoka was like now works for DreamHack, but basically at some point he told me like everybody thought because he was working for TL, like all the pros told him Show had basically retired. He was playing Hearthstone, and so
I remember that.
That was supposed to be his last tournament. And then he beats Life, and he's like, "Wait, maybe I am good at StarCraft." And then he wastes like another year playing StarCraft. So, thank you, Life, for giving false hope to Show.
Ruining another player's career.
Yeah, he's a ruiner of players' careers. That Life guy. So, beyond that, the slump wasn't that interesting. Now we will go back to his rise again because he does rise again. Because spring is over, he's like, maybe I should start playing StarCraft 2 again. And then you go into the fall, and the first tournament he runs into is Bucharest, and he runs into, unfortunately for him, an on-form Tasia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This was another. I think it was another of Tasia's peaks. Yeah. He also plays him. He also plays him in a tournament later in this year, and also gets wrecked.
Yeah, but everybody gets wrecked. Even
it was winter. Yeah, it was DreamHack winter.
Yeah, basically everybody gets wrecked by Tasia. In these 400 tournaments. Shout out to SOS also getting wrecked, and then Innovation also got wrecked here. Like they all got wrecked by Tasia this time around. I don't remember this one being like that exceptional. Do you remember this one?
No, it wasn't really that exceptional.
Yeah, it was like the later one that was like much more interesting to me.
I mean, mostly because he didn't play opponents that really tested him.
Yeah.
And if you look through this list, like it's Hawk. Anyone remembers Heart.
Yeah.
No one remembers Venus.
Mm-hmm.
Like he loses to Stardust, he beats Nurture and Supernova in kind of close series, and then Tasia just kind of outclasses him at that point.
Yep. Then we go to IEM New York. This is a funny one for a few reasons, but we'll get there. So Life is stuck in a group with Hyun, Zest, and TLO, and Zest nobody knows about yet, but basically Life gets a free win against Zest before Zest is truly great. And he moves on, beats Hero, beats Curious, and then plays Naniwa. And that Naniwa series is pretty funny because it looks to me like he wasn't taking it seriously partway through until Naniwa won. He's like, "Oh, time to get serious." What do you think about this tournament?
No, you're exactly right. And I do remember this one detail because I went to it in person and saw the games on the big screen.
Yeah.
So in Life, he had this kind of carefree attitude, like he would just run Naniwa over, and you can remember it in those mid game attacks where he would knight us and he'd bring all his queens to supplement his Roach Hydra army, and he did win some of those games until, of course, he got outplayed.
Yeah,
because he got too arrogant.
Mm-hmm. And then he got serious. And then
yes.
Credit to Nanawa. Even after he got serious, Nanawa still got a game. I think it was on Yonsu. I don't really.
He made it to the finals.
Yeah, he made it to the finals. So Nanawa was legit at the time. He also made it to BlizzCon basically off of this, or made it to the tiebreaker to get to BlizzCon eventually. But yeah, so Life wins this one. So Life is good again, and we're going to continue his story of being good again because. Sadly for Life, basically, even though Life is good again, and I actually think he's legit, he'd be legit in a top 5. At that moment, he runs into this guy called Tasia, at DreamHack Winter. And so I'll explain the run. So basically, Life is in Group B. He beats everybody in that group. So Polt, pretty great Terran player at that moment. MMA, JYP, still stuck around. And Stardust, who got eliminated early on in that group. Then in the bracket, he plays Naniwa again, beats Naniwa, beats Innovation, loses to Tasia, beats Patience, and Patience went on to eliminate a bunch of brilliant players throughout this run. His best run ever, basically. SOS, Polt, MMA, Innovation. And then he beats Patience, and then he comes back, challenges Tasia, and loses to Tasia again. So, where do you want to start with this? Is there any series you remember from this particular tournament?
I remember the Innovation one, and looking back on it, it's not surprised that he lost to Tasia this convincingly.
Mm-hmm.
He basically goes 2-6 against him, since the series against Innovation was kind of a fluke. Yeah. I remember one game he falls behind very, very hard. He's been making basically, he's just maxing out on Roach. And then he gets fortunate when Innovation moves out. He just throws his entire army into his base. And somehow he trades well.
Yes.
So at this point, Life still isn't, he still hasn't mastered how to beat Innovation in macro games, and that comes later on.
Mm-hmm.
So for him to even get there to the finals is somewhat of luck.
Somewhat luck, okay.
And, you know, with Tasia, he can't break him with those builds I was talking about before. So he's forced to play straight up macro games. And Tasia's one of the best who ever did those.
The best, probably. Like,
yeah.
Has anybody beaten Tasia in macro games that weren't imbalanced? Like, nobody has.
Life has.
Except for Life, yeah. But that's like years later, right? Like, there's Life, and then who else? Like, Rain didn't do it. Innovation didn't do it. Zest didn't do it. Sue didn't do it. Rain didn't do it. Like, we're getting pretty low on the list of people who've actually beaten Tasia in macro games. Like, beyond, like, TVT, and that's it.
Yeah. There's nothing really that special. There's nothing apparently that special about how Tasia did it.
Mm-hmm.
He was kind of like Life in that sense that he just knew how to fit into that niche as well as possible.
Yeah, he understood decision making way better than every other player I've watched, basically. So basically, if you just extend the decision making process forever, assuming there is no like end game composition that can instantly kill you, Tasia should almost always win that scenario. Basically, that's my opinion.
Yeah, but finals weren't really one sided.
No,
Life fought very hard, but he could never get the advantage with that meterless play.
Yeah. Basically, he would have to become a much better player to beat Tasia at Tasia's peak, which would happen eventually, but not this time. Right. So we'll go to NorthCon, and this is another forgotten tournament. Basically, it's the only one Jaedong wins, and basically Life gets to the top 4. I don't think he beats Innovation again, as far as I remember.
Yeah.
But I don't remember it being that like exceptional. If you get my meaning, like it didn't feel like it changed the matchup for Life that much. Like it didn't like show Life was going to always beat Innovation from then on. You know what I mean?
No. You're right.
Yeah, and then beyond that, nothing else of interest.
Yeah, except that dreadful series against Scarlet.
Yes. And let's point this out. Basically, Life does have a bunch of dreadful series. So what do you take? What's your take on those? Because he does have a bunch of them throughout his career.
Well, sometimes he tries to play too clever.
Mm-hmm.
If he thinks he has an advantage in build orders over an opponent, he'll just keep trying to catch them off guard with something cheesy, like Tenpool, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And in certain areas that works. Like when he first came up, you could Tenpool Azur against Terran and still transition to a macro game.
Yes. That was a great build. I used it a bunch.
Don't I know it?
Uh-huh.
But against Scarlet, every build of his just fails.
Yeah.
Like it either the aggression doesn't work, or she anticipates it and just picks the correct response.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, she comes out looking way better than him.
Yeah. That's true. So go on to his final run, basically, of this like return to form as GSL Season 1. This is the one where he gets to the top 4. So I'll run it over for you. He beats Yonghua and he beats Dark in the group stages. Yonghua was not that good. Like, super overhyped for his career. And even then, like, his career wasn't that good. So that should explain Yonghua in a stretch. Dark was...
The Atosis curse.
Yeah, the Atosis curse. That lasted forever.
It wasn't his fault.
Yeah.
It was not his fault.
Okay.
He never became a great player.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll go with that. Dark, another player. I think he was a player that was... He was like a prospective talent that showed good games on the lower level, but had yet to break through. He wouldn't break through until 2015, in my opinion. But still pretty good. Still pretty decent victory overall. He beats Roro twice. And Roro was basically on the outs, as far as I remember. At this point, he's like, I am gonna get out of here very soon. That's what I remember. He's like, I am out of this game, and that's because his like only achievement was the end of the Broodlord Infestor era of the GSL victory. And then after that, Roro kind of like meandered about, like sometimes good, sometimes not good, but could never really make a stretch of form. And apparently he was burned out by that point too. Didn't like the game, too many hours, whatever it was. Then Life plays against Maru. Life beats Maru in a very close 3-2. And then Life plays... Okay, go ahead.
A goofy series, lah.
All right, tell me about the series then.
It was basically... Life would try to counter Maru by making roaches.
Mm-hmm.
And roaches, and sometimes it worked, and sometimes it didn't. There wasn't those long, drawn-out macro games that he would have against him like an IEM.
Yeah.
Taipei. It's basically Maru would do an attack, and then he'd just kill Life. In the next game, Life would build up to his attack Maru, then he'd die.
Yeah.
And in the coin flip, he comes out ahead just one more at a time.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Yeah. That's I guess I'll talk about it now. Basically, there's this, I guess, ongoing argument I had with Ollie for a little bit, was whether or not Life was the luckiest player to ever existed, or Life was a next level mind reader. What's your take on that?
Well, in what sense?
Like, basically, like we talk about Life, but sometimes a bunch of his runs do come down to like luck. But I also thought like a lot of his runs came down to the fact that he was like reading the opponent. So like he was reading like in my opinion, like he was reading, because of the way he plays the game. He gets a lot more information and gets a lot more psychological pressure, and because of that, he can kind of read into the opponent's like mind in a sense, and break open the game, because he knows or he's gambling that they're gonna make this move that's gonna fuck up, or like gonna make a mistake that's gonna fuck up, and he knows it's coming. So in my opinion, he was like a next level sort of mind reader in that sense, because of the way he played the game. Whereas like Ollie was always of the opinion he was lucky. What do you think?
Well, he's admitted that in long series he always starts off very slow.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that throughout his career. In his finals, he never gets a 4-0.
Yeah.
He never devises a plan that completely counters what his opponent's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he'll kind of wing it at the beginning, and throughout the series, he tries to figure out what kind of risks he can take, and versus which ones are just too dangerous.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So I think you're kind of right, but he also is lucky.
Yes.
But he's also lucky in the sense of the meta.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mentioned before.
Yeah.
If Protoss was prevalent at the end of Wings of Liberty, he doesn't hit that peak as hard as he does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are very few players in the history of StarCraft 2, and even those players, like, they can't necessarily always win no matter how bad the meta is. So, yes, that's certainly the case, I think. Especially with...
like innovation.
Yeah, innovation.
We all know.
The Ultimate Patch Terran, the Plato's
Terran.
Oh,
don't say it like that.
Listen, everybody else thinks it's like a bad pejorative. I actually think it's fine. I actually think it's like praiseworthy, basically, because this guy's literally... Because in order to be like the Ultimate Patch Terran, that literally means like 5 years from now, Terran is like 51% better than every other race. Innovation is automatically the best player. Like, that's pretty sick. In my opinion, anyway. Like, this guy, basically, Innovation, even though like he doesn't have like specific sort of style that lets him always win. Assuming that a standard style can win, theoretically speaking, he will win.
Yeah, and he'll crush.
And he'll crush. Not even just win, he'll crush. Is just in actuality, I think what's keeping him from being, in my position, like argue like a greatest of all time candidate. Like I only have like four of them basically: Life, Tasia, Sue, and MVP. Basically, what's keeping him from that is because like he has like his weird mental like hurdles, like at critical moments in his career, specifically at his peaks. Like the soul key, obviously the soul key throw, in that GSL finals where he threw that entire series away into the bin. Basically, and then there's his later one. The last one basically was at BlizzCon 2017 where he basically could have beaten and should have beaten TY in my opinion, but he didn't. And he basically, I think in my opinion, played below par for his standards. So
yeah, but that's why he doesn't enter your list.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, basically.
If he doesn't adapt.
Yeah.
To the era that he's in and try to make the best of that.
Yeah.
It's either he's really good just due to his work ethic and talent, or he's amazing because everything falls into place.
Yeah.
So that the builds he's using, they have no counters to them whatsoever.
Yeah. So and then like even if you took that one out, like we just looked at his achievements and his peaks, basically they're very similar to Life. Like two very big peaks, and then like every once while in the year he'll come back. Like 2014 he wins GSL, 2015 he wins GSL, but the rest of the year he doesn't do as much. Similar to Life in a sense, but unlike Life, his peaks aren't nearly as like fucking crazy in my opinion.
Yeah, and unlike Life, he doesn't really do it. He doesn't really do it in spite of what's going on at that moment.
Yeah.
Like Life's first peak, he barely uses in Brutal and Fester. In fact, honestly, he's much worse at it than Symbol was, than Bravo, and Sniper.
Yeah, basically he only uses it when he's faced with an old man with like a 5-slip disc, but
but a cunning mind.
Yeah, cunning mind though, very cunning mind. So, yeah, basically that's like that's like a Life in a nutshell. So also, that's why I like even if like I skewed every criteria to try to make innovation the greatest of all time, it wouldn't work out because Life beats him in like every criteria. So it's like it's too hard. It's too hard to make that argument, in my opinion. So anyway, in this GSL, he plays against Sue, and I've always said this. Zerg has always been like a Highlander, and Sue kills Life and becomes the best Zerg in the world. What do you think of this series? Because up to this point, basically, Life has been killing it in ZVZ, but he runs into Sue here.
I think here Sue. This is a very long series too, right?
Yeah, very long series.
Now, in terms of games, I don't recall anything specifically standing out.
Yeah, it's ZVZ. All ZVZs are kind of like that in a sense.
But during this period, Zerg wasn't really ZVZ wasn't really timing based anymore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because when Life was dominant, he was hitting all these different timings. He would do the Meta one that I discussed. He had the 3-hatch roach for +1 attack.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. But with these games, they were just indefinite, moving on to the late game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Sue's always been better than Life in that category.
ZVZ?
Or late game? In terms of understanding which tech transitions to choose.
Oh, yeah.
When to attack with a disparate army composition, since that's one of Life's few weaknesses.
Yeah.
That's why he hated Brutal Infestor so much. It's not... Sorry, hold on. I have to readjust my headset. Like, that's the reason why he never used Brutal Infestor. Because it's not a very responsive unit composition.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that was the composition you had to use in ZVP if you wanted to win.
Yeah.
So, with those games that you were talking about before, those sporadic bad ones, a lot of them happened when he had to go into the late game, and he got frustrated because he wants to attack with Zerglings. He wants to exploit an opening as soon as possible, but then he has to micromanage this very slow, fragile army around.
Yeah, basically anything like Brutal Infestor or anything like Stormhost he hated, as far as I could tell.
Yeah, well, he adapted pretty well to Swarm Host.
He
He
he,
somehow
he,
found a way
he
to
was
make
better
it
with Swarm
fast.
Host, but it's not like he loved them. That's what I saw when I was playing when I was watching him play. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, didn't really feel like it was life. Felt like, oh, I guess I can use this. I guess I have to use this. It's not like, oh, I'm going to use this all the time because I love it, like Snoot.
Mm. But I don't think you preferred that over Brood Lords just because you could actually move them
Yeah, that's true.
on a map and poke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could be more proactive with Stormhost than Broodlord and Fester, certainly. Yeah. All right. So he takes a break. Basically, life goes into hibernation. He does show up for a tournament mid-year, unsurprisingly. Shows up at DreamHack Bucharest and does decent. Basically, wins the entire thing, which is like decent for him, I guess. Beats Leenock. Leenock was already dead in Heart of the Swarm, in my opinion. So he's basically beating a ghost here. Beats Stardust. Stardust was still decent WCS EU player. Still had upset potential with him. Beats Innovation. Innovation was like in a downturn. Still solitarian, but not like exceptional at that point in time, as far as I remember. And then he beats Impact in the finals, and Impact wasn't that good. So,
Yeah.
anything stand out here?
Not really.
Yeah.
He's just better than all the other players in attendance.
Yeah.
Really.
Pretty much. Would have liked to see him against somebody like Snoot. I think that would have been funny for me.
Oh, he plays Snoot.
He does play
A
Snoot.
couple times throughout his career.
Yeah, I played him in like IPL. I remember.
And that's where he beats his Mutalisk player.
Mm-hmm.
He finds him much fast. Yeah, right. I do remember that one.
Mm-hmm.
He figured out that you don't go Roach Nidus in order to beat it.
Yeah.
You mass Queens so you get hit it faster.
Mm-hmm.
While still protecting the Nidus.
Yep. That's how Snoot did it. Snoot's smart guy. Then we go to hibernation is over basically, and go towards August. And August at the very end of August, so fall is upon us, and life remembers. Wait, there's this game called StarCraft 2 I can play for money. Right. So it goes to DreamHack Toronto. Was his first rise to power basically. In this one, he basically plays against Flash, MC, and Scarlet. Beats Scarlet, beats MC, and gets out of the group in first. Plays first in the playoffs. Has that crazy Deadwing draw game, if you remember that one.
Yes.
All right.
I do. Yes, I do.
I want to talk about that one then, because that one's really fucking weird. Even by life standards. That was great, though.
Yeah, one of the funniest games I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, basically, if you haven't seen that, you should definitely watch that. That one, the draw one is ridiculous, basically. And he plays against Zest and loses his Zest. No shame to losing his Zest. Basically, the best player of the year. Probably the best CVP player, or PVZ, whichever. So, what do you think of this run? Because this is the run where like life really starts to show maybe he's coming back. Maybe this is a seasonal pattern with him.
I think at this period he figures out another way to approach CVP.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've never been too keen on figuring out how the meta exists in general. But do you remember what pros' opinions on CVP were at this point? So I remember them thinking it was hard. But you couldn't go into the late game.
Yeah. Basically, as far as I remember, for Zerg, this was the Swarm Host era. As in, like, Snoot was right, everybody else was wrong. Let me check exactly. Basically, if you want to know ZVP meta, just follow Snoot. That's my opinion. At least during this period, because he understood it better than the rest of them. Yeah, this is definitely during the Stormhost era, where, as far as I know, Korea was lagging behind because they didn't want to switch to Stormhost because it was like a very slow, grindy play style. So it's not fun, basically. And Snoot was correct in thinking that that was the best late game style to play. And the only other ways to play it were like Sue's style of just overpowering them with mechanics and economy. But like that didn't really work against Zest. So yeah, basically like all the problems like he laid out for life happen here against Zest, essentially.
Yeah, because his way to compensate for that, he would go for these heavy Hydra mid game, and he would try to run over the opponent. Like he did that against First, and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
He was just mechanically better than First,
Mm-hmm.
and better in the fights as well.
Yeah.
So he was able to pull that off.
Mm-hmm.
But Zest got very quick Colossus. You couldn't really do that while getting shredded and trading out poorly in engagements. I think the only game he won, a big reason for that was because Zest he stop commanded one of his zealots
Mm-hmm.
in the opening for his natural, so his entire army got stuck when Life attacked the base on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. Luck sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Zest was very in command.
Yeah.
For that entire series. So.
Mm-hmm. Right. So even though like basically that's like his last tournament before BlizzCon, but it was enough with the GSL top 4, Bucharest, and this he gets into BlizzCon, and he's not expected to do very well at BlizzCon for a variety of reasons. Like not that many people believe in Life anymore at that point, and like everybody was talking about the elephant in the room, basically all the Newcastle players, and Innovation had returned to form because he had just won GSL. Sue and Zest were the best players. Classic on the other side was still an amazing Protoss, so was CJ Hero, but then he died to 2-gate from Classic. So basically, what did you make of Life's BlizzCon run? Because he beats Zest, he beats San, he beats Tasia in an epic series, and then he beats MMA.
It was miraculous when you think about it in the context of the entire scene, because he was the only Zerg to win a series.
Yeah.
In the round of 16, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think Sue could have done it, except he ran into Tasia.
Yeah, but it was almost consensus that was Zerg's low point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, even Jaedong lost a bomber.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah. Basically, as far as I know, like it was like really rough for Zerg, and a lot of people were saying like Zerg couldn't win anymore, and I didn't think it was like true just because like Sue was doing pretty well outside of losing Innovation. He was doing great, but yeah, basically Life kind of crushes here.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And he finally overcomes Tasia with a little trickery.
Yeah.
I remember him doing a lot of these very early Bane busts, not like the ones that he was using against Flash at the beginning of the year before, like extremely early.
Yeah.
Trying to punish the thirds.
He also used the proxy hatch on Sejong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was a great series overall. It basically shows a lot of what I think of Life and Tasia as players. Because if you look at the bottom bracket, basically like the 3 top favorites were Sue, Innovation, and Zest, and then Life and Tasia beat both of them. Between the 2 of them. All 3 of them, basically. So, yeah. 2 prodigies in their own right. And then Life goes on. He beats MMA in the finals.
Yeah, that was kind of sad, though. MMA had a great story going to that finals.
Yeah, but I mean, listen, basically Life won this entire thing when he beat Tasia, because Tasia was like the only guy who was going to stop him at that point.
Yeah, basically. The finals were kind of
let down.
He just kind of rolled over him.
Yeah. But,
in all honesty.
Yeah. Basically, the only reason he would, like, the only guy who, even though Zest goes like 2-3 here, the only one I thought like Life could have been eliminated from this tournament was the Tasia series. Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
Yeah, very scrappy.
Yeah, very scrappy, and both of them very much in their element at that moment. Mm-hmm. Then we go to DreamHack Winter, because basically from this point onwards, we're going to go into Life's biggest peak, and arguably the biggest peak any player has ever reached, in my opinion, and well, probably ever reach, just because of the way the scene is constructed at that moment, where like everybody's playing super hard. There's the Kespa training and all of that. So keep that in mind.
Wait, hold on. Did you forget about DreamHack Winter this year?
Okay, whatever you say.
Did you?
Whatever. No, I'm going to DreamHack Winter now.
Yeah.
2014?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to. Because basically from BlizzCon to 2015, I think that's considered like, I consider that Life's like biggest peak.
Mm.
Right, so we're going to go to the 4GG's greatest victory. And Life does really fucking well here too. So basically, Life in Group A beats Tasia, San, Leenock, and Bunny. The only one I think was really great was Tasia. in my opinion. I feel like Son was kind of iffy by that point. And then Life beats first again. Life plays against 4GG, and 4GG uses like this hyper aggressive mech style. That's kind of similar to what MVP does, except it's even more aggressive. And there's no like timing attack base around it. It's just like attack. And then he plays against Tasia in the losers finals, another great series. And then he plays against 4GG in the grand finals and loses there. So what did you make of this one?
I think in one way it was an improvement of what we saw before. Because with Life and Tasia, when Life you beat him in the past, it was always a sweep. Like those games were never close. I think Tasia lost against him 0-4 in one of the MLGs.
Yeah.
Correct? Those games weren't close. He 10 pooled, he broke through the wall and won. They went to the mid game. Tasia never had any advantage. And past then, whenever they got into series, it was always very hard fought. But Tasia would always win because his understanding of the macro game was without parallel.
Yeah.
But starting from that series in BlizzCon, he starts to actually meet Tasia in that mid to late game. You can actually contest him and outposition him.
Yeah.
Which is something he wasn't able to do before. Even going back to the early days with ESV.
Yep.
So I don't know exactly how that works. Honestly, that's beyond my understanding of the game. But something changes. Something changes around this point, and he's actually able to beat Tasia in head-on macro games without relying on any of those numerous strategies that he used in the past to beat Talon. You just beat him in direct macro games.
Yeah, not all the time. Like he still mixes it up, and that's what makes him more dangerous. Yeah. Way more dangerous, basically. He's like, because now it's possible to win it, but you're also keeping like the old styles. So that's why you start favoring Life over Tasia, and even then, it's still like a very close series, right? So
true.
Yeah, so it's very dangerous, and then he also loses to 4GG. Like my guess is like this 4GG thing is 4GG. Not only was he on a tear, but he had a very specific style that Life never played against.
Yeah, and it honestly didn't make sense when you watched it either.
Yeah, so
mech plays like he had such a loose mech style. And that was antithetical to what mech was supposed to be about.
Yeah. So I just thought it's just a great, funny, scrappy series, but it's not going to be replicated by any other player beyond 4GG. Only 4GG could have played that way. Like even though it's like basically based off of like MVP style mech of like Banshee Hellion, it's not really MVP style mech at all.
Yeah, because MVP style mech was always about
control.
well, that and you build up to the critical mass that Zero can't face. But 4DG just sent units everywhere.
Yeah,
like he was playing Marine Tank.
Yeah, it was a very fun match. It's also the only time you ever see that kind of style, basically, because nobody else ever uses it.
It's curious. Like, did no one else ever even try to replicate it?
Who knows? I don't know. Maybe it's like too hard.
I don't know, because people have tried to copy Tasia in the past and failed. They tried to copy Life and failed.
Yeah.
And MVP. But I don't think I ever remember seeing someone try to copy that specific mech style and it not working. They just didn't attempt to.
Yeah, I don't remember it either. But who knows? Maybe at least for the European guys, they probably didn't think it was that good because they played 4GG. But I don't know about the Korean guys. But yeah, it's definitely one of those weird mysteries. So now we're gonna go into 2015. Said the biggest peak in StarCraft 2 continues onward, and Life wins GSL. Go with that one first. I think it was IE and Taipei first. Let me check.
Yeah, it is Taipei first.
Okay, let's go to Taipei then, because this one won't be that long. Basically, Life beats up 4GG, beats up Sulky, beats up Hyun, beats Parting, and then beats Maru in like another very close finals, 4-3. Anything?
Well, that Parting series is notable though.
Yeah, what was notable about it?
I think Parting tried all these fancy tricks against him. There was that he built the base inside Life's natural.
Yeah.
And he tried to like suffocate him with cannons. But then he just builds a gold base across on the other side of the map and kills him. and that's how Pudding tried to beat Life throughout the entire series. He was trying to catch him off balance.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's like a new age SOS.
Yeah. Of course, SOS is basically non-existent at this point. So yes, New Age is
Well, it's like old age,
old age,
proto SOS.
proto SOS. Yeah, SOS would come back into the picture later on, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So yeah, that was notable. What do you think of the Mario series?
Oh, this is great. I think it's one of the classic series
Mm-hmm.
in StarCraft 2. Even though I know one TL writer is not too hyped about it
Yeah.
because Mario keeps leaving his depots down and getting all his SUVs killed by Zerglings running by.
Mm-hmm.
He was so mad watching that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's Mario. What do you like? I like I said, like I think like it's just like the way life played, like kind of fucked up Mario's style.
Yeah, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Because Mario can match him
Yeah,
in aggression.
yeah. Mario matched him in aggression, so it's like it's a very seesaw sort of battle. But I think life wins. No, life does win it out. So what do you think is the like winning edge for life in that series?
Honestly, part luck.
Part luck.
Really? Like, do you remember that game 7 where he has the space in between his buildings?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do remember a bit. Listen, that happens. Sometimes SimCity screws you up. But I mean, yeah, you had to get all the way to Game 7 for it to matter, though.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, but what was the original question?
What was the edge that got life that win basically against Mario?
I think it's because while Mario could play just as decisively as life, he never constricted his playstyle, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That was Taja's key to victory when he was beating life.
Mm-hmm. Was he could stop? He could keep life in a box.
Well, that and all of life's tactics, he knew how to deflect them and cause minimal damage.
Mm-hmm.
But with Mario, he would take as much damage as he was giving out.
Yeah.
So eventually, it just became a war of attrition.
Yeah, and life was the better at that style, at least at that time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense.
Because with Terran, you still have to with Terran at that point, you still had to commit a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. All right. Then we go to the GSL finals. He wins GSL season 1. This one he beats Gumiho, beats Gumiho twice, beats Yoda, the other match fixer. Funny enough, beats Sulky. Sulky's still around, still decent, even though he's basically been burned out for like a year and a half at this point, or something crazy. Like he's always been burned out ever since like the end of 2013, in my opinion.
Was he still on SKT at this point? I don't think so, right?
I don't think so. I think he was a free agent by 2015. But like even like yeah, he was already out of SKT near the end of 2014. So even getting around 16 is actually pretty good considering. Mm-hmm. Then he plays against Innovation, beats him 3-2. Plays CJ Hero, beats him 4-3, and plays Parting and beats him 4-3. Now we've talked about like how life has had these problems with Protoss, but he does beat 2 of the great Protosses here. What do you think? And Innovation, like all problem matchups we've pointed out in the past. How does he win this GSL?
Oh my god! Honestly, I wish I could give you an answer, because right now I'm blanking on how he beat the Protosses. But just the fact that he wins alone is really significant. He beat Parting at
Taipei.
BlizzCon.
And BlizzCon, yeah.
Final BlizzCon, but again, that was more because he figured out how to counter the Soul Train, or at least mitigate it. And at this point, Parting's no longer relying on that.
Yeah.
So really, this is one of the highlights of his career.
Mm-hmm.
Just because he bucks the trend and he doesn't win in ZVZ, which was always his ultimate matchup. He doesn't rely on ZVT either.
Yeah. He
only beats Innovation in a round of 8.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, basically, as far as I remember, he does like all in the last game 7 against Parting. It was like a classic like 9-pull or 10-pull or something.
Yeah, he followed that up with a Hydra.
Yeah.
Mass Hydra,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. Basically, if you just think about the way those players want to play, the Protoss players, maybe it's just because they played in the specific area where life would be good in CVP, which is like the early mid game. Maybe that's it. It's hard. It's hard to say. Just because like it, I'd have to study a bunch of like the VODs basically to figure it out. But even then, it's kind of iffy, right? Because Protoss was in this weird like state of flux at that moment, and it wouldn't be until like Classic and Rain and those guys show up a little bit later that it would work out. But all right, he wins GSL, and now we go to the SSL, and in a way, in a way it's sort of funny because basically Life finally killed Tasia, and Tasia's basically retired. So surely at this point, no Terran should stop him. But then Terran does stop him. He stops him twice. And he plays against Dream in what is literally Dream's highest peak he will ever reach, ever. Basically, in SSL Season 1, SSL Season 2. And in SSL Season 1, Life looks to be on the verge of potentially winning this title. Basically, gets to the playoffs, beats Deer, and then he plays Dream in the semifinals. And it's an epic best of 7 series with Dream coming out on top 4-3. What did you remember of this one?
Oh, he lost to Dream 2-3, didn't he?
That was
that
was the second season.
In season 2.
In season 2. This is season 1, where he loses the best of 7. Like the season 1 where he loses the best of 7 is like, I think it was like the merry-go-round one where like Life literally is about to win. But then what happens is like Dream does like a gamble where he sends out a medevac, and then by that point Life respects Dream enough that he plays the safe option and goes back to defend against drop, while Dream is upgrading like 1-1 with no units in his base, because that's the only way he thinks he can win is like a timing attack after that finishes.
Yeah, and Life didn't upgrade at all, right?
Yeah, because basically Life thought he had already won. Like,
yes, he was just like all-inning with just units. Mm-hmm. Not thinking about later into the game.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know what you say, other than I get like what you said.
Dream is a fucking god.
Yeah, for that short period of time.
For those two tournaments, yes.
Yeah, because in between, Life actually stomps him in the dirt, into the dirt.
Yeah, literally just these 2 tournaments. That's it. That's actually the funniest thing about Dream's career is like he's allowed like 1 or 2 godlike tournaments, 1 or 2 godlike series a year. It just happened like both of them were against Life this year.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird because in between those, Life played him again at Kesper Cup and
smashed him.
Like he smashed him.
Yes. Yeah, that's not much else to say except like Dream ascended to a level. Perhaps he was trying to defend MVP's honor as the greatest of all time. Who knows? But in any case, yes, basically Life is only stopped by Dream twice in what is arguably like the highest level of TVZ we have ever seen.
Arguably, and he finally met someone who could both play at his speed and
play like
kind of counter him.
Yeah, and counter him.
Yeah, because Tasia could counter him, but he always played slightly slower. So when the meta slightly favored Life, he would just overwhelm him.
Mm-hmm.
And Maru could play as fast as him, but he would always get caught off guard.
Yes.
By the counterattacks and such. And that's what killed him. But Dream managed to balance the 2.
Yeah. For exactly only 2 series, but yes. He managed to balance the 2 just for those 2 series. So the only other tournament there's only 2 tournaments left we'll talk about because we're drawing close to the end. Casper Cup, like you said, top 4. Basically smashed Dream here. Throws one of the games against Terminator and loses to Dark in the semifinals. Nothing really surprising here, in my opinion. What do you think?
I think Dark was the better ZVZ player at that point, and I would have been surprised if it was a close series.
Yeah,
because this was because before this time, Life starts to get kind of sketchy.
Yeah,
in that matchup, like he dropped best of 1s to people who were not on his level. and that happened occasionally back when he was up and coming. But that was more due because of the risks he was taking.
Mm-hmm.
Like he would play 10 pool and it wouldn't work out, and he'd struggle and eventually lose.
Yeah.
But especially in Pro League, he was losing games very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And Pro League was never, and I think you have to attribute part of that to the fact that he was never very good in team leagues besides all kill.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure why.
Actually, it makes complete sense to me. Because if you just think about life as a player, this isn't a guy who has like very strong rigor. You know what I mean? Like he isn't going to be like, oh, I got to prepare very hard for this tournament or this next tournament. And then even if we look at his series, it's like, yeah, he's a slow starter, and that's because he's not taking it seriously. It feels like he has to like get into the game. He has to adapt. He has to play into form. And then in every team league, it's basically just best of ones. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, but in all kill, that's the weird thing, because in all kill team leagues, he was very, very good.
Yeah.
Like he was the only reason besides Bomber occasionally that Startail team ever really got anywhere.
Yeah.
Which I've always hated.
I think that one makes sense too, because of the way all kill works. Because like in best of one Pro League, it's like you preparing for a week for a specific best of one, whereas in all kill, it's actually you. Assuming you're not the first guy being sent out, and Life was never the first guy being sent out, you're just sent out there without any real preparation most of the time.
So if you go in cold, you have no way to recover.
Yeah, like very few coaches. Like basically the only one I could think of that did like a specific counter to a player for all kill format was like Choya's teams, but everybody else never did it. They just basically played their game on the day.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense. It makes sense to me anyway.
Yeah, he was never. I think he only went like 5-5, 6-6 in Pro League.
Yeah.
He was never on the level of Maru or Zess
or Innovation. Or like Rain or any of those guys, like CJ Hero.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest blemish on his record now that I think about it.
Was his team
almost all great players in the past were really excellent in Pro League.
Or
they'll just take that for granted, like Flash and Bisu and Jidong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So certainly, if you actually can't put on account, that would probably lower him a bit, and would raise up guys like Innovation and Zest and stuff. So that's an interesting point. And so basically, Life goes into hibernation again, and then he shows up at the very end of the year in BlizzCon, and I'm gonna just skip over a bunch of these series because I don't think any of them were very good until the finals. Like Little Bo he beats, Innovation he beats, Classic he beats, barely, but he beats him. And then he loses to SOS in the finals. What did you make of this tournament from Life? Because it's basically his last one.
That first series was such BS.
Against Little Bo?
If you remember it. Yeah. Was Little Bo the one that did not put any preparation into the series whatsoever?
Yeah. And
he basically got his ass handed to him in under 30 minutes?
Yeah. It was like an AGDQ game. It was basically, and then listen, if he had just said, good game, Life, you're just too good for me, would have been fine. But he did that weird thing, was like, I would have won if I had only practiced, but you didn't practice. But I would have won if I only practiced, but you didn't practice. And he's like, it's because nobody offered it. And then like TLO comes out, dude, we all offered you. What are you talking about? It's like, fuck you guys, I'm playing Overwatch, and never heard from him again.
Mm-hmm. Like what a way to go out.
What a disastrous way to go out. Yes. But yeah, that's what I remember for the first round was Life and Little Bo.
The Innovation one, this was that series which had a great ending for a Life fan.
Mm-hmm.
I think when Innovation went for the door drop that did not work out whatsoever.
Yes.
I mean, he spent 10 minutes just frantically scrambling around with no advantage, and he got rolled.
Mm-hmm.
I remember everyone losing their minds when he did that. Because at that point, Innovation's still a really great player. Mm-hmm. You expect him to want to play macro games, but all of a sudden he goes for these weird, cheesy strats he's never played before. Because no one ever really played the Thor drop that seriously. And he wasn't one of those players either.
Yeah. So that was another weird ass series. Yeah, I remember that. Plays against Classic and SOS. And kind of like really messy, typical life series. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That's what excels in.
Yeah.
The...
And this one's actually a really funny BlizzCon just because it happens like the two most clutch players here at this BlizzCon end up in the finals because there's like a lot of extra pressure on this one because like Heart of the Swarm is ending. They're literally the last guys leaving Heart of the Swarm, and so Legacy of the Void is coming in. Maybe Life in the back of his mind is maybe thinking about the match fixing thing. Who knows? But certainly like huge amounts of pressure here, and then the two most composed clutch players in this tournament, amongst the best in StarCraft 2 history, make it to the finals. That's kind of how I build this one because like the rest of the games weren't that great, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird. It was kind of a weird BlizzCon in retrospect.
Yeah.
But I do think that was a mistake he made in the finals, though.
Who, Life?
Yeah, because he tried to challenge SOS in that department.
Yeah, and that's like SOS's specialty.
Yeah.
Yes, that is a mistake.
Especially that.
Like there was no reason to challenge him there.
But don't do that. Like don't challenge him there, even if you can't, if you're good enough to actually beat him. Don't allow him to do what he does best.
Yeah, that's clearly a like strategical mistake at least. So all right, basically covered all of it, and then Life gets caught match fixing. Life is banned for life, as far as I know.
Yeah, you have to be.
So
there's no way he's ever coming back.
Yeah, no way he's ever coming back for certain. So with all that said, we've basically gone through Life's entire like history. So what do you think of Life as a player, or Life in terms of his legacy?
Outside of the match fixing thing?
Outside of it, and then we can include it later if you want. It's hard to quantify it because it's not like in Brood War where he popularizes a build or revolutionizes a matchup. Yeah.
Per se. It was more that he establishes certain trends in how to approach matchups that get carried across and eventually disseminated. But it's not like Flash where he figures out one build and then everyone copies it, and that fundamentally changes the matchup and forces the opponents to adjust in turn. Most of the stuff he comes up with only lasts for about 3 to 4 months tops. Like that speedling, like the speedling thing I was talking about before, that goes out as soon as Reapers become popular as an opener, because you can't do that.
Yeah.
The meter play stops and comes back again in ZVZ, but by that time you don't just make 6 to 8 of them, you make 1 billion of them, and then Blizzard changes the Spore Crawler to prevent that.
Yeah.
So I think his legacy is that he shows Zergs that they don't have to play that passive style that was advocated at the very beginning of Wings. Because he shows that you can remain aggressive at points throughout the game without sacrificing drone count while still having tech transitions. And most importantly, you can trade out advantages when you're trading army units. Yeah. Like he would sacrifice considerable portions of his army just to buy time to get into better position or to finish his infestors and whatnot.
Yeah.
And no, this is a really hard question. I hadn't thought about it like this before.
All right.
I think the second one is that he shows it's kind of like why Tasia became so good as before, and why innovation is not on your list.
Yeah.
showing that if you come up with your own particular take on how to play the game, you'll find more success with that than merely taking what other people did and refining it.
Mm-hmm.
Because no one could ever copy Tasia in the way he played into the mid and late game. No one could ever really copy Life in the way he played aggressive, even though people eventually took parts of it. Like now, counterattacking in the mid game as Zerg is very
Standard.
standard.
But they can't do it like Life did it.
Yeah, you can't do it like that. They don't really know how to find timings in the same way that he did.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really know how to fuck with people, basically.
Yeah, psychologically
In the
attack
same
them.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Life was like really, really good at that.
So I guess legacy in that sense, he's always gonna be the particular
Uh-huh.
in the way that we always talk about, like MVP.
Yes. One of the all-time greats.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And no one could figure out problems the way he could.
Yeah. Like I said, he did have, for what it's worth, Flash did say Life had a very similar mindset to him. So, take that for what you will. What do you think about Life versus Sue? Like, which one do you think is the better player? Because that's a direct translation of Zerg versus Zerg, even though they've completely different styles, and Life has way more titles.
Sue has way more consistency though.
Mm-hmm.
And with Life, that was never something he mastered.
I mean, he couldn't even master Rigor, so yes, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't get consistency if you're not. Oh, to be fair, actually, Teja was incredibly consistent for a guy who also lacked Rigor. So
Yeah. Oh yeah. He didn't. Did he?
he,
He didn't really practice that much at all.
no, dude,
Did he?
like the more random information I get from like people who actually interacted with Teja, the more I'm certain he actually practiced less than anybody in like the history of StarCraft 2 at the highest level.
Really?
That's like the impression I keep getting from these guys. Yeah, we were hosting Tasia for a month. He didn't practice, and then he won DreamHack Winter. It's like, oh, okay.
Well, when you're that talented, I guess you can afford to do that.
Yeah, it's like some ridiculous bullshit like that. It's like, oh yeah, Ollie was telling me that, oh yeah, basically, the reason nobody could beat Tasia was because he didn't practice on ladder in Korea at all, even though he was living in Korea. So whenever these guys went to foreigner lands, they're like, wow, who is this guy who is playing? Or like apparently like he played so little that everybody underestimated him, according to Sue and Mize and all those guys. Like, oh, he's not that good, and then they all lost to him. So who knows?
Do you think he regrets that now? That's
Who,
the
Tasia?
one thing Tasia. Well, that's the one thing Tasia never could do. That was always a criticism. He never won GSL.
I don't think he cares. I don't think he ever cared. Like he's such a weird player that way. Like,
Is that his power?
yeah,
He brings
that's,
more of a shit
like
game?
he's very similar to Life. Like neither of them care, in a sense, right? Like obviously Life cared even less because he match fixed. But when we're talking about like Tasia, it's like he was like straight up criticized multiple times by the Korean community. It's like, you will never be great. You never won GSL. I was like, yeah, that's true. Moving on. It's like he doesn't care, man. It's so weird. But yeah, what do you think? So, all right. So, what are your personal? So, basically, in your opinion, like Life is like of a particular unique character, at least in StarCraft 2. Basically, like his like individualism kind of shows out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. He's never really created builds that are going to last the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
And never be known that way, like Flash is. Like Flash is still being known for that now.
Yeah. Well, Flash is like a true genius of Brood War. Mm-hmm. He actually deserves all that hype, but he actually doesn't. Ironically, he doesn't actually get the same hype now that he's playing Brood War again as he did in StarCraft 2, which is pretty funny. But whatever. But yeah, basically, Life is a very sort of interesting character. So, all right.
But yeah, with the question before, I put him ahead of Sue
Mm-hmm.
just because in this kind of arena, winning is always remembered a lot more.
Yeah.
Than doing consistently well over an absurd period of time.
But I mean, so many second places.
So many, but then you become a Kong.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you get pity more than respect.
That's true. You get way more pity than respect, even though technically he's like been in more GSL finals than anybody in history ever will be.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of sad
Yeah.
because really Sue is one of the best players to ever play the game.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Untouchable, untouchable by basically anybody if you're just talking about GSL. So, all right, one last question, and then we'll wrap up. What did you think would have happened if Life continued playing Legacy of the Void? Because that's the question, right? Because like when I look at this game, I actually don't know if it would help Life as much in certain metas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that.
But like in other metas, like I think it would help him a lot. So who knows? Like the Ling Banning job, I think that would have been great for him in CUP, for instance.
No, he would have beat the shit out of that.
Yeah, right.
To be honest. I think he might have struggled initially because in this version, his advantage was that the sheer speed he could play in the earlier expansions, and he could think faster, he could react faster. But in Legacy of the Void, everything is pushed. Everything has to happen faster, just mechanically.
Yeah.
Like there's no way you can ever compete. You know, and that was the source of a lot of the criticism of it as well. There'd be 1 or 2 fights, then the game's over, or people would just attack mineral lines, because why not?
Yeah.
That's more effective.
Makes sense.
So I do think at the beginning he would just have a dip in results, since you would have to decide, do I just continue what I was doing before and gain an advantage by making quicker decisions, doing more things on the map, or do I come up with more solid, stable strategies?
Makes sense. All right.
But he would still be successful.
Yeah,
I think,
especially because like everybody's reverted to an ESF style schedule and training regimen.
Yeah,
and that's always been like Life's forte. I will say he'd probably be super lazy again though at points.
Yeah,
like he would only try at certain points. Like I don't think he'd ever get over that. It's just who he was as a player. And
a young player.
Yeah, a young player. And unlike like Biol, who's like super attached to the Mutalisk, I think Life could play other styles too, like other units, as long as it could be aggressive and fast. So, all right.
Yeah, I mean, in Hearted Swarm, a lot of his tactics were made inconsequential, just by changes in units, like the Reaper. But he still found success.
Yeah,
still adapted really well. So I have no doubt he'll be able to do that here.
All right. Yeah, that's pretty much. I pretty much agree. Like I think Life would have still been one of the great Zergs. I still think I think if he had been,
I do think the Mutos would hurt. Do you think the lack of Mutos in CVT would hurt him?
Yeah, it would hurt him a lot. But I still think he'd be great. Like, it's hard to say exactly how great, but I think he'd be great. All right. So, I think that wraps it up for this one. You have any last words you want to say about Life or anything?
You said before, you were going to mention before, what would his legacy be like? What his legacy would be like now that he was caught match fixing? Yeah. And unlike, say, Savior, he didn't do it at the tail end of his career.
He did it at the peak, or not the peak, but like a year after it.
Yeah, where he's still relevant, still a possibility of him hitting another peak. And I do think that makes all the difference, because with Savior was disappointment about him being a failed role model. Yeah. Beyond being a legend, but now people they're not just angry because he tarnished the
competitive integrity.
Just he tarnished the integrity of the game, but also he has failed his own potential. Yeah. In retrospect.
I did.
So now, I think people. No, go on. Sorry, I was rambling a little bit.
Basically, I did talk about this in some other video I did. It's basically like there's some weird connection between Life and MVP, where like Life has everything he needs to become the greatest of all time, but like he's stopped by his own character, whereas like MVP is the greatest of all time because of his character in a sense.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right, because like MVP's only doing this because he needs money to support his family. So he fights through like the 5-slip disc and then gets all that money, right? Whereas Life is like throwing away his career to match fix because he doesn't give a fuck or whatever reason he had.
Yeah, why did anyone find out?
Nobody figured it
why
out.
he did that?
Nobody knows why. Like, and nobody wants to interview him. Obviously, he's like persona non grata in Korea, and it's like nobody else is interested in finding out what the fuck was his side of that story. So it's forever a mystery.
Yeah, that's gonna bother me the most. I can kind of understand why Savior did it.
Mm-hmm.
So he found himself he's not really relevant, so he could delude himself into thinking that if he had some influence over some other players and told them to do this stuff, then it was whatever. But Life had won so many tournaments. He has so much prize money. Was it just greed that made him do it?
I mean, the only thing we have is like a rumor from MC that he gambled a lot. Like, that's it. I don't even know if that's true.
Was that even legal?
Was it? It's certainly not legal in Korea, but he could have done it in foreign tournaments. But
I mean, age-wise.
Yeah, I'm not even sure age-wise I would have been legal, actually, now that you pointed it out. So, like, who knows? Like, it doesn't make much sense, right?
What's he gambling on anyway?
Don't know. Baccarat?
I know. In an odd sense, in an odd way, that kind of makes sense, though.
Yeah, because that's how I played the game, but it's like...
But also competitors have really strong connection to gambling, because they like the adrenaline that comes from it. And unlike for them playing sports, they don't have control over the outcome.
Yeah.
So it's even bigger high than before. I don't know, maybe that's it.
Yeah. Who knows?
But we'll never know.
All right. I think this wraps it up for this one. It's been good. All right.
That was great talking to you.
Cool. All right.